The Ange Postecoglou story is pretty unbelievable. His achievement is actually, it's sort of impossible.
The biggest cheer for the head coach.
A lot of people see Ange at the moment and see the levels that he's got to on a global scale and massive profile globally. But humble beginnings in Melbourne.
Postecoglou. There's the first goal of the season.
He clearly cares about the game. You get the sense of a very good human, and not all people in football are that.
Stunning stuff from the wall.
I think he's redefined the possibilities for all Australian coaches. He's stepped into a world that we've always seen as the realm of the realm of the great coaches.
Emotionally, over the last 12 months especially, I think it has been tough for Ange at Tottenham. But, you know, knowing Ange, you put his back to the ropes, he will come out stronger than ever.
It's when I'm at my best, because I love pushing through that stuff. It's an opportunity to convince more that I haven't got here by accident.
He's driven to win, he's driven to succeed, he's driven for his teams to be the best they can be.
It's going to be an absolutely crazy day here in Bilbao. Come on, you Spurs.
In the lead up to the Europa League final, the energy and the excitement in Bilbao was palpable. We went over to Bilbao, myself, a few of our closest mates, Ange's family. The city was abuzz with just fans coming in from everywhere.
For Spurs fans, it was very much about you save your season. You know, you save everything.
Leading into the final, there was a newspaper column which said that Ange would either be a hero or a clown, depending on the result of this one game. The same journalist asked a question of Ange at his press conference before the Europa Cup final.
If you win, this is going to be remembered as one of the best seasons in the club's modern history. But if you lose, it might be remembered for one of the worst league seasons in the club's modern history.
That depends on your outlook, Dan, but I'll tell you one thing, irrespective of tomorrow, I'm not a clown. I never will be, mate.
That clearly rankled with him. He bit at that. And I think it showed, to a degree, the pressure he was under.
I'm a human being. Do I get angry sometimes? Do I get frustrated? Do I get disappointed? Of course I do, but what I will do, though, is always call out people who I think have got it wrong.
Spurs hadn't won anything for a long time, in 17 years. They hadn't won a European trophy for over 40 years. And so the pressure is enormous. There are massive stakes.
When Ange walked out onto the field for the Europa League final, I don't think it'd be a leap too far to say this was the biggest game of his life.
But wherever your football allegiance lies, the chances are, I think, that you've probably watched some soccer, possibly on television.
It wasn't cool to play soccer when Ange and I were growing up. Yeah, it was pretty simply called either kiss chasey or wog ball. Kiss chasey, you know, after the boys score a goal, everyone would be hugging and kissing, which, dare I say, they're doing that now in AFL for fun. And wog ball because only the ethnics played it.
We grew up in Athens. Greece at the time wasn't a pleasant place to be. Dad, he had a business that unfortunately with a change in government and the military moving in, he lost.
You know, we came over here when I was 5 and, you know, it was obviously a massive move. They obviously came here to give me and my sister a better life. As a kid, I just wanted to fit in. So I didn't necessarily like the fact that I came from another country and, you know, I had a really long surname that no one could sort of get their mouth around. And I guess for a young boy, the best way to fit in was sport.
I remember this skinny kid with the blonde light hairs, which is very un-Greek, just absolutely fiercely darting in and just really competitive. And I remember thinking, oh, this kid's standing out.
On a Sunday, there was 2 places of worship for anyone of Greek origin. In the morning, you'd go to church, and in the afternoon, you'd go to the football.
South Melbourne was the club of the Greek community. The clubs were basically based around the ethnic groups, the immigrant communities.
These little clubs were really strong pillars in each community, just providing comfort and support to people who had made a pretty big decision to come to a new country.
When Ange was old enough, Dad enrolled him at the junior development at South Melbourne.
My father, he loved football, and he'd drive me to training. We'd have half an hour in the car. You know, me and my dad was, you know, for a boy, that's what I was after. Very quickly, the whole game just consumed me from then on.
He was like a sponge, so anything to do with soccer he absorbed. He would sit in on conversations with older people as they discussed it. He would watch what little television there was in those days, magazines, books, stories, anything.
Any right. That's a run forward, just chipping that one inside, looking there for Trimboli. Here's Postecoglou, and there's the equaliser from Angelo Postecoglou.
I first spotted Ange when, in the mid-'80s, he came through as a young player with South Melbourne. He had a long mullet flying behind his head as he galloped up the field. He was an attacking player, very, very quick.
Right with the cross. Postecoglou with the header. Angelo Postecoglou.
When I turned up, he was already captain of the club at 21.
That's his 4th goal of the year.
South Melbourne had a massive expectation. The Greeks would pack in there, and God forbid if we drew a game or lost a game.
A dangerous play from Ange Postecoglou.
And he went on to have a terrific career there. He captained the Tour Championship, played in a couple of championships as a player.
South Melbourne, the National League champions for the 2nd time.
And then went on to coach at South Melbourne as well, and then going on to be, you know, a really, you know, a legend of the club.
We'll see everyone back at the South Melbourne Social Club, OK? Well done.
Well, after the successes of South Melbourne, Ange was eventually offered to coach the Australian youth teams.
I would now get to challenge myself internationally, not just, you know, domestically, and I was looking forward to it.
It was an international role, something he thought was a springboard to greater things. But I think quickly he found he couldn't be his own man. He had to sort of play other people's agendas, and he felt bogged down by that.
By 2005, I didn't coach well because I started worrying about all this pressure that was intensifying over the fact that we hadn't got results at youth level for a few years. A lot of uncertainty, almost a dark cloud over where I was heading in a professional sense.
In late 2006, Ange Postecoglou's Australian youth team failed to qualify for the World Cup, now for the 2nd time.
Thanks for joining us.
We invited Ange onto the World Game programme to be interviewed not just by me, but by my colleague, Craig Foster.
Why do you keep saying a point to the players? You're obviously not listening to me, mate.
The interview with Craig went out live, and it's become a bit of an iconic event in Australian football television history.
I don't sit in glass houses, mate. I'm out there. Well, mate, listen, what I'm saying is, if I didn't qualify the team twice like you, I'd put my hand up and I'd walk out, because that would happen in most other...
I think the one point that kind of sent me off was, you know, he was asking me to resign.
So you're saying I should resign? I think that's your opinion, is that right? That's my opinion. Fine. Are you going to resign then? That's the next question.
I remember straight after doing it, that's all people wanted to talk about, that interview, and I thought, well, is this what I'm going to be defined for now?
For the first time, I heard him over the phone really distressed. He was pretty upset and worried about how he was portrayed and what it looked like.
All right, Ange, thanks.
3 months later, he got the sack. So things started to go downhill from then on.
Suddenly he'd gone from the guy that could do no wrong to a guy you couldn't employ.
An opportunity came to coach in Greece, and God bless her, Georgia said, look, you know, go for it, and off we went.
And that's no easy gig. That's a minefield. But that said to me that he was determined to learn, get better, and be the best coach he could be.
When we got back from Greece, Ange still couldn't get a job. We didn't have a place to live, so we moved back with my mum for about 6 to 8 months.
It was TV work that mainly sustained me, and then I was doing some bits and pieces with coaching kids and running clinics because I just wanted to keep coaching.
OK, we're on air for offsiders. We're straight out to camera 4.
I was worried for Ange. When you can't get the opportunity, it's frustrating. So I saw frustration. What I didn't see through any of that time at all, ever, and I've never seen with Ange, right, is him questioning his ability.
It's amazing how many times it does happen, man.
In fact, that period of time, I think over a couple of years, what he developed was this real clear mindset on what he wanted to do as soon as he got the opportunity. He knew exactly where he was going to take a team, how he was going to do it, and transform the way that football was being played.
We were doing a broadcast, and half the game I was leaving, and in front of me was Archie Fraser, who was CEO of the A-League at the time. I just said to him, look, I'd love to have a crack. I'd love to get back into coaching, and I'm desperate. I think I've got something to offer.
Ange received a phone call from Archie not long after that and said, is there any way you can get yourself to Brisbane? The next day, he jumped on the plane and went and met the owners of Brisbane Roar at the time.
And I said, I'm going to do things differently. You know, if you're happy with what you got, I'm not your person. And I sensed in them that they want to change as well. I wanted to leave a mark. And part of that was even the way the game was played. We wanted to be an attacking team that sat better with me as a person, my personality.
No opportunity to make mistakes tonight. And it looked crazy for a while because they were awkward and they would get themselves in trouble. But they were absolutely determined to play on their own terms and play an attractive, exciting brand of football to entertain and to win games.
Oh, it's one of the goals of the season!
And eventually, it worked. It was brilliant to watch.
Stunning stuff from the Roar.
The Brisbane Roar under Ange is the best Australian club team I've ever seen.
Unbelievable!
And this was music to my eyes. I mean, it was the modern way of playing.
And Brisbane Roar have won the grand final. Oh, yeah!
They were just really, really happy times. And we had just gone through a really, pretty shitty time in our lives that lasted probably a lot longer than we both thought. It just made the victory even sweeter.
By the second year at Raw, I was agitating for something different again. That was now my constant driver.
So we moved back to Melbourne, and Ange was the head coach of Melbourne Victory.
At the Melbourne Victory, Ange Postecoglou was doing well. He was building a quality team. While at the same time, the Socceroos were at the bottom of the toilet. There were 2 internationals played, but Australia got slaughtered 6-0 in each of them.
This morning's heavy defeat to France came after a devastating loss to Brazil only a few weeks ago.
So they decided to sack the coach.
When the crash came in Paris for the Socceroos, it was quite apparent who the next Socceroos coach could be. There's only one, really, and that was Ange.
I think today is a bloody good day.
And he's on the mission with us to make this sport the largest and most popular in the country.
The opportunity to coach a country, I didn't think this moment in time would come for me again, and I thought it was a time to take it.
I was super excited for him to have the opportunity, but at the other side, all I could think about was, oh no, I'm never going to see my husband. It's going to be very, very difficult again, and it's quite lonely, but at the same time, I knew that he was ready.
Anyone under 3 foot is not allowed in here.
There's one thing I can definitely say, I wouldn't be where I am today without Georgia. I think through that tough time, without her by my side, I'm not sure where I would have ended up.
We hardly see Ange, and I remember even I was pregnant and Max came 3 weeks early. Ange was supposed to fly that day to London, and I said to him, you can't go. You're not leaving me to have this child on my own. You have to change your flight. Anyway, he did. He managed to change his flight, and Max arrived, and then the next day he left. And that's how things work for us.
Today, the Postecoglou plan for Brazil 2014 became clear.
We want to reward form and fitness and also have an eye to the future. We had a World Cup and an Asia Cup in literally 12 months. I wanted to win the Asia Cup, and every decision I made was geared towards that. I've always told you, if you're in any doubt, you go forward. With the ball, just by yourselves. But first, we were going to a World Cup, and with the whole world watching, I couldn't not be competitive there.
Spain the world champion in
Spain.
B1.
B1. I set my alarm for, I think it was 4 in the morning around then, and got up to watch the World Cup draw.
Australia will play Chile
For the Group C
in their
now.
opening game with the new manager, Ange Postecoglou.
We got drawn in what was the group of death. Now we're going up against the best in the world.
I thought, oh my God, how on earth are we going to beat any of these teams? And James, his son, actually sent him a text and said, this is fantastic. You know, the whole world's going to be watching your game. This is your time to shine.
Everyone expected a couple of tennis scores, 6-love, 6-love.
Holland go up.
But something in the team clicked. I think Ange had taught them to hold their nerve.
He's done it again.
World Cup was unbelievable. I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew what the team was doing. We played some of the best football. We kept the ball. We rattled teams, mentally, physically.
It's 2-1 Australia.
We lost 3 games. But that performance in Brazil made me very proud to be an Australian because their capacity to be willing to have a go and to be not fear anyone. And that's the way I expect Australian teams to play.
He sat us down straight after the last World Cup game. He said, you know, look at, you know, successful tournament. You know, we did Australia proud, but, you know, our next aim now is the Asian Cup.
The biggest ever football event to be held on these shores. There's the opening goal from Hussein Final.
They started slowly, but then by the end of it, you just sense that this team, they were ready to achieve something.
Franic to check and deliver. Great ball in, and what a header! And it is Massimo Luongo.
And then they saw it right through to the final.
Juric has dribbled his way clear. Chance! Goal! For Australia! James Troisi! They've done it! They have done it, Australia! History created!
That's the most I see Dad move when he starts celebrating it. It was a pretty good feeling seeing him running around, pumping his fists in the air, getting into it. I was a bit worried about his suit because he was stretching it out, but that's all right, yeah.
It's a funny one in that moment. You get a huge relief that's come to fruition, and I just sit back and I just watch everyone else. I get a real buzz from seeing people celebrate that have worked hard for it, seeing the satisfaction in their faces, and then, you know, your family, friends, Georgia, James, you know, that they're all in the stadium and you kind of look for their faces. I try and soak it up because I know that the next day I'll move on. In that moment, I try and take as much in because I know that come the next day, I'm already thinking ahead. I'd love to win a World Cup.
Coming off the Asian Cup, the expectation was very high for the Socceroos.
It's now crunch time for Ange Postecoglou's men.
I think a big turning point in this campaign came about when they came out against Iraq, playing the new formation. He wanted to be more attacking. That came at a risk of conceding more goals.
A goal to Iraq and a dagger to the Socceroos' hopes to play next year in Russia.
They had a 1-1 draw, and immediately he was second-guessed on his tactics.
That's what our shape will look like. Our 3, our box 4, and our wide guys, and our striker.
I change the formation every year. This sort of conservatism we have of, OK, we won the Asian Cup, let's just stick with that now because that worked. Sport, my sport, doesn't work that way. Because what worked 2 years ago is not going to work today.
The Socceroos won their games against Saudi Arabia and the UAE.
Job done, and boy, they needed that.
Then they went to Japan in a game where they could have booked their place in a World Cup with a victory.
Japan are through.
They lost 2-0 and subsequently didn't beat Thailand by enough to qualify automatically.
Well, there's applause mixed with groans of frustration.
The mood immediately after it was almost as if they'd been eliminated altogether. I think the fact that we now knew we would have to go through 2 sudden death series, that's when the howls for Ange really came.
Serious and pertinent question must be asked, and I think it must be asked by everybody. It is being asked by everybody. Is he the right man?
We need a different voice because those players, in my opinion, regardless of what they say publicly, are not responding like they used to under him before.
It's make or break time for the Socceroos. Tonight, they'll take on Syria to determine whether the team will move one step closer to the World Cup.
The Socceroos defeated Syria tonight in a thrilling contest.
Cahill, there it is!
Beat Syria, beat Honduras home and away. We've qualified for the World Cup.
Ange, his heart and soul was into having Australia qualify, but I think in the background there were some things happening that were causing him some uncertainty. He didn't want for Australia to just qualify for World Cups. He actually really believed we should be trying to win them. So I certainly think those things would have been gnawing away at him.
And then Ange makes the amazing decision to step away from the Socceroos.
After a great deal of thought and soul searching, I've decided that the journey for me ends as Socceroo coach.
It was quite a bombshell. There was just a feeling of disbelief. Some put it down as even a betrayal.
Probably not the ending I'd envisaged when we started, but at the same time, knowing it's the right time for me.
Ange wanted to imprint his way of football on Australian football. Whether that support was there, ultimately to allow him to be as successful as what he wanted to be, is probably part of the reason why he made the decision.
And I want to wish you good luck and once again say thank you.
I think it was a perfect time in his mind to take on the next challenge and write the next chapter.
The former Socceroos coach Ange Postecoglou has revealed his next move. He's signing on to coach a Japanese club team. The 52-year-old will now take over the reins at Yokohama.
So Ange goes to Japan. First year, took some time to imprint his style. Second year, he wins the championship.
I think it was a defining result for him because it was outside of the Australian League. It really put him on a platform on a global basis.
Former Socceroos coach Ange Postecoglou has been confirmed as the new manager of Scottish giant Celtic.
Success in Japan means nothing to people in Scotland. When he arrived, I think most of the reaction was, who is this guy?
Breaking news coming out of Scotland here. The Celtic have applied for exemption for Yokohama Marinos boss, Postecoglou? Oh, this has got to be a wind-up. No.
I grew up in a schoolyard with a long surname in Australia, and trust me, I heard every variation of my surname. Nothing they were going to say was going to upset me.
At Celtic, he was incredibly successful. The football that he played was sort of classic Ange ball. It was very exciting, very dynamic, very attacking. I think he won 5 out of 6 trophies. If you have real success in Scotland, then Premier League clubs do look at you.
It is official. Ange Postecoglou has signed on with Tottenham, becoming the first Australian manager in the English Premier League.
So 2023, Ange gets the Spurs job.
And I was kind of lying in my bed as a 9-10-year-old. What was the visions I was having? And Premier League was it for me. It was where I wanted to see myself one day. That was the dream for sure.
The Premier League is the biggest league in the world, no doubt about that. Highest profile, huge amount of money. So that's the cauldron that Ange has gone into.
I had no doubts that for me, the mission when I joined this football club was to win a trophy.
So Ange impresses upon the club and the playing staff the way that he wants to play, his style of play. They term it Ange ball. It starts off in a rollicking manner.
They then went on this run where they won 8 of the first 10. They were top of the league, unbeaten.
The Spurs fans are loving it. They start singing songs in the terraces. It's all going famously well.
It's Big Ange Ball.
We've got Robbie Williams, megastar, superstar, on Twitter, coming up with songs about Ange, and how good's that?
I'm loving Big Ange instead.
The football was great. Then there was this game against Chelsea. And they had 2 sendings off. Two of their key players got injured. Actually, it turned into their season sort of completely unravelling. And this season, it just never got going. They've had absolutely terrible injury problems. But Ange didn't adapt, ever. He was like, if plan A doesn't work, you do plan A better. And people are like, but it's not working, Ange, like, do something. And he kept, like, playing this sort of kamikaze football.
Tottenham have made their worst start to a Premier League season for 9 years after losing the North London derby.
It didn't take long for the media to turn on him.
Postecoglou made the comments that he always wins a trophy in his second season.
He made big statements, which paints a target on you.
Are you seeing enough in this side that this season you do think that they will be a side that can win? I'm talking silverware.
Yeah, absolutely.
Competing right at the top.
Am I going to answer the question or are you going to keep asking it? No, absolutely. And I think I'll correct myself. I don't usually win things. I always win things in my second year.
That level of confidence sometimes doesn't go down well with people.
Tottenham Hotspur under Ange Postecoglou are rubbish. Flipping 13th in the league. We're out of the League Cup. We're out of the FA Cup. He has a philosophy, apparently.
Where does he go from here? I hope it's straight to the airport.
Basically came to the point where, I would say from February, he has been a dead man walking.
Then it became, well, we've got this opportunity in Europe. What do we do about that?
So Ange made a strategic decision. He focused very clearly on the Europa League. The Spurs go on an amazing run in Europe and make it into the final against Manchester United in Bilbao.
Making the final was, I guess, for me anyway, a real kind of vindication of the road we'd taken. A final of a significant tournament, an opportunity to create history.
Live in Bilbao, building up to the Europa League final. It's an all-English clash.
The pressure was immense. Like, if you win, you get a trophy. If you lose, there's nothing.
We're talking about a club who lost 3 finals before, the last sort of 17 years, had made 8 or 9 semi-finals. That's not a great record in big games. So there's a lot of nervous people around at the club, trust me, who, were fearing the worst. Probably our supporters as well.
We're at the stadium. We've walked in with the Spurs fans. The atmosphere is electric. There's a whole stadium full of Spurs fans back in London also supporting their team.
So 2 Premier League teams playing in a European final. Doesn't get any bigger than that, I don't think. This was the one game on the planet that night, and the whole world's watching.
Georgia, his wife, his kids, we're all sitting together in the grandstand and kicking every ball with Ange.
Tottenham scored late on in the first half. Pretty scrappy goal.
So we get in at half-time 1-0 up.
Ange has said, I would never try and hold on to a 1-0 lead. No one has tried to hold on to a 1-0 lead more than Ange did in the second half of this game.
There was wave after wave of Manchester United attacks, a couple of incredible saves.
I actually said to Georgia, his wife, have a look at Ange. I reckon he's the calmest person in the whole stadium.
And the relief when that whistle finally blew was amazing. I guess it's the pent-up joy and emotion of people who hadn't won a trophy. They all just celebrated as one.
Eventually, Ange comes out. We see him and we just give him the biggest hug and very emotional time.
It's a tradition for British teams to have an open-top bus parade after they've won a major trophy. They're usually joyous events. I think this one was another level.
How am I feeling? Oh my God, on top of the world!
Oh, I'm buzzing, mate. I've come a long way for this today. It's an absolute unreal feeling.
I've been waiting since I was a little girl. I've been coming to the game with my dad, and this is like a dream come true.
As much as you kind of understand, what a trophy would mean to these people, it's just seeing them out there today. It's just, it's why we do what we do,
And Ange had said, I always win in my second season.
I told him and I didn't believe. But here we
It is actually incredible. You sort of couldn't script it how it has ended.
I'll leave you with this. All the best television series, season 3 is better than season 2.
I didn't want us to just enjoy the moment, but I also wanted us to think about what's next. You know, don't settle for this. We've got a taste of it now. My players have got a taste for it. The club's got a taste for it. Well, let's make sure we're back here again.
I expect Spurs would have to make a decision very quickly about Ange's future.
Good day, Romero!
He's got Tottenham a trophy. So many managers have failed to do that. That should instantly afford him the opportunity to go again next year.
So right now, Ange is probably lying on a lounge somewhere in Greece, sunning himself with his family and having some downtime, well-deserved break.
At least a nice day.
I think Ange feels vindicated. I think Ange is really satisfied that he's been able to deliver for everyone important.
When we sat down 10 years ago and did this initial Australian story, I think maybe even you guys thought that was the culmination of, you know, what I was about to achieve.
I'm not going to the water, it's freezing.
But what I do know is that in 10 years' time, if we sit down again, I've got no doubt in my mind that there'll be more stories to tell. There'll be more trophies that have been won.
Quite frankly, Ange Postecoglou got it right and I got it wrong. Ange Postecoglou won, Rory Jennings nil. In fact, Ange Postecoglou 100, Rory Jennings nil. Ange Postecoglou has become a legend of that club. He has become a true icon of that club. He has done something that I didn't think were possible, and he is now etched into Tottenham folklore forever.